Welcome to Hatman Strikes Back Daily Boxing News. Now, for those of you who are younger boxing fans, you might not be aware of the context of the different stages of Mike Tyson's career. So during the mid to late 1980s, when he was undisputed heavyweight champion, his career was very serious. He was a celebrity, yes, but it was serious boxing business watching Mike Tyson. We were looking at potentially one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, making his mark on boxing history. Yeah, there were a few goofy commercials that Mike Tyson did here or there, but for the most part, Tyson had a serious image. He was seen as a serious athlete, you know? Then he lost to Buster Douglas, came back, had a few fights, went to prison over the Desiree Washington thing. When Tyson came out in 1995, his career took on a very different air. Initially, there was the seriousness, but then he had these colorful characters around him. One of them being a guy called Crocodile. He was like some type of hype man. And Mike Tyson never had hype men around him prior to prison. So that hype man almost started giving Tyson's image a bit of a WWE feel and attracting a different type of audience. I mean, many of the same supporters he used to have, obviously, because he was a massive star already, but the trashier elements of society will gravitate into Tyson even more at that stage. And then, after losing to Holyfield the first time, then there was the infamous bite fight rematch. And at that point, Tyson's boxing career really became car crash television. Now, some might argue the car crash stuff started with Robin Givens, where Mike Tyson literally crashed his car into a tree. But I want to say that was a precursor of what was to come. It was really in the 90s when he came out of prison that his career became full-on car crash. And it was the bite fight that really started it. From that point on, yeah, there was still some people that took Mike Tyson seriously. But a lot of people watched Tyson's career because they wanted to see what crazy thing he would say or do next, rather than because they thought he was such a great boxer. Do you understand what I mean? His career took on this like circus type vibe, because after the bite fight, he came back against Francois Botha after he'd served a ban for the bite, and he was straight away trying to commit fouls on Francois Botha as well. Tried to break his arm and do all this. It's like, what is wrong with this guy? He eventually knocked out Francois Botha with a legitimate punch, but the point is, he seemed to have gone completely off the rails from the Holyfield fight on. When he fought Orlin Norris, that was a controversial fight because Mike Tyson knocked him out with a shot landed after the bell. Then he fought Andrew Gallotta, and everybody was wondering what's going to happen here, because Gallotta is arguably even crazier than Mike Tyson. The two craziest guys in boxing, you know? And in fact, I swear Mike Tyson actually failed a drug test for that fight, and he was found to be high on the green stuff, the sticky green stuff, which obviously isn't a performance enhancer, at least not in the view of most commissions. And that fight ended with Andrew Gallotta quitting after 2 rounds. And during this period, Mike Tyson was involved in the WWE with Degeneration X, and his career, which at one point was seen by most people as a respectable career, where he had dignity and he was looked up to as a boxing great. Later on, his career seemed to descend into the gutter in terms of the way he carried himself, his conduct in the ring, his conduct outside the ring, the stuff he was involved in. He went back to prison and did a brief stint when he was gearing up to fight Lennox Lewis. There was that fight he had against Lou Savarese in Scotland, where he felled Savarese within seconds of the opening bell. And when Savarese got to his feet and Tyson set about him looking to finish him off, referee John Coyle jumped in to stop the fight. Mike Tyson completely ignored him, carried on punching, and actually felled John Coyle with a left hook. So the antics continued, and in fact, years later, Mike Tyson would go on to admit that he was actually high on nose candy for the Savarese fight. Oh yeah, and he got past the drug testing, because obviously nose candy is a stimulant. That probably would be classed as performance enhancing. Certainly if you've taken it on the day of the fight or whatever, an hour or so before the fight. Mike Tyson said he got past the drug testing by utilizing something called a Whizzinator. Now the Whizzinator is a prosthetic Johnson. I won't use the real word, but if you're of a certain age, you'll know what Johnson is a substitute word for. So when the British board or whoever was overseeing the testing for that fight came in and observed Tyson taking a whiz, either before or after the fight, I forget which it was, Tyson was using a Whizzinator, a prosthetic Johnson. So they wouldn't find the nose candy in his sample, basically. That's where Mike Tyson was at that stage of his career. And yet people were enthralled. People were fascinated. And there was the infamous post-fight interview where Mike Tyson threatened to eat Lennox Lewis's heart, but also his offspring. At the time, Lennox Lennox Lewis didn't have any offspring. So it was pure car crash television. He then fought Brian Nielsen, and then there was the Lennox Lewis fight. And in the run up to the Lewis fight, there was the big brawl at the press conference where Mike Tyson bit Lewis's leg. So it was trashy, gutter. That's what Tyson's career was at that point. And that's why people were tuning in to watch. Now, obviously, Tyson lost to Lewis. He came back against Clifford Etienne. He fought Danny Williams and lost. Then fought Kevin McBride and lost that as well. With the Roy Jones exhibition aside, Mike Tyson has now come back after 19 years at the age of 58 to fight Jake Paul, a YouTuber, a social media star. Some people see it as a sad fall from grace. I don't see it as a sad fall from grace because I see it as just a continuation of what Mike Tyson was doing 20 years ago. His career was already a circus by the mid-90s. So I'm not sure where all these romantic rose-tinted glasses wearing people are going. Of course, you're concerned when a guy that old gets in the ring. You know, what's it going to be like when he gets hit and so on and so forth. You'd prefer really for this fight not to be happening ideally. But it is happening. Mike Tyson's doing it of his own free will. Does he have money problems? I don't know. He obviously burned through a lot of his career earnings. He says he got robbed of some of it because of Don King and whatever. But certainly a lot of it was squandered by himself with frivolous spending, partying, and an extravagant lifestyle. But he's not like the typical ex-champion who falls on hard times because Mike Tyson has bounced back post-boxing and has seemingly, as an outsider looking in, created a very lucrative career for himself as a personality. He's been in various Hollywood movies. He had that Broadway show. He's got his podcast. He now sells the sticky green stuff. I'm not going to use the word. You guys know what I'm talking about. He's got his little sweets and stuff that are shaped like ears. And he's gone international with that, I think, at least in terms of distribution. Apparently you can get Mike Tyson's sticky green products in Holland, in Amsterdam. And Mike Tyson revealed in a recent interview with Andre Ward that he actually lives next door to Don King, which is a hilarious irony, right? Given the history between those two guys. And Tyson himself finds it very funny that he's Don King's next door neighbor because according to him, Don King thought he was going to end up in the gutter. So he sees it as the ultimate revenge for all he says Don King has done to him over the years, that he ends up as Don King's neighbor. So he could torment Don King in the final years of his life. I guess Don King's in his 90s now maybe, or at least late 80s. And that's not a cheap neighborhood to live in. Don King lives in a big house. Tyson lives in a big house, a mansion. Now, of course, people that live in mansions can still have financial issues, but I don't know. As an outsider looking in, you'd think Tyson's doing pretty well for money. So why is he taking this Jake Paul fight? What's it all about? Does he just still have that itch? The call of the warrior? Obviously, the money's got a certain amount to do with it. It would have to. But is it all about the money? Or is a large part of it also still a fire in him? And perhaps he thinks that this young novice YouTuber, Jake Paul, is limited enough for him, even at the age of 58, to defeat and make tens of millions of dollars in the process, which can't hurt, whatever his financial situation is. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section below. Do you think it's sad that Mike Tyson's taking this fight? Do you think he's doing it because he does have hidden financial problems? We know back in the days he had all sorts of money issues. He went bankrupt and we know all that. He had to pay untold millions back in tax and blah, blah, blah. But as far as I was aware, that was pretty much resolved. But who knows, right? I'm an outsider. We're all outsiders. So let me know whether you think Tyson's got serious money issues and that's why he's taking this fight, or whether it's just, as I say, the call of the warrior. Are you worried for Mike Tyson's safety? If you're a Mike Tyson fan, are you worried about what this might do to his legacy? I said in a previous video, if Mike Tyson were to lose this fight, I don't think it does anything to his legacy. The man's nearly 60. What do you expect a 60-year-old man to be able to do? He already got beat by people like Danny Williams and Kevin McBride 20 years ago. So losing 20 years later when he's pushing 60, even if it is to a YouTuber in Jake Paul, that doesn't tarnish his legacy at all. His legacy is whatever his legacy is. It's set in stone. The stuff he did during his championship days, that's his legacy. All this extra stuff is like whatever. It's not going to make any difference as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Leave yours in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'm out. Are you surrounded by mindless bots in human form who adhere to the norm and blindly conform? Who swallow all the mainstream BS and actually ridicule you for questioning things? Do you wish you had more free-thinking individuals in your life to network and converse with? Well, look no further. We're right here. Come and join the Brotherhood of Reason on Patreon. You'll gain access to my weekly topical content where we take deep dives on an endless variety of subjects, as well as my vast back catalogue of podcasts, videos, interviews, movie decodings, and my Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You'll also get to talk and network with myself and hundreds of other people in our members chat. You can enjoy all this via the Patreon app or on desktop and download all my podcasts in high quality MP3. There's no contract, no commitment. You can cancel at any time, just like Netflix, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper. Just download the app from the Play Store or the App Store, or simply visit patreon.com on a web browser. Then head on over to my page and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. All the links are in the description box below. And just a quick money-saving tip for Apple users. If you purchase your Patreon subscription on the desktop site or on Android, then you'll avoid the ridiculous 30% fee that Apple charges for purchases made on the iOS app. So if you're on iPhone or iPad, save yourself some money by buying your subscription on the actual Patreon website or on Android, because it's a lot cheaper. Once you've made that initial purchase, you can then use the Patreon app on your iPhone or iPad thereafter to access and enjoy your content as normal.